Welcome back to the channel. I'm having to re-upload this video. There was an issue with some copyright, so I'm just going to redo the video entirely. In this video, we're going to be taking a look at Fernando Mendoza. We're going to take a look at his production profile, his injury history, his receiver play, take a look at some advanced stats of his, take a look at some All-22 while I discuss some of his strengths and potential areas of improvement, talk about where he might go in terms of IRL draft capital, and then finally what we can expect from him in fantasy. So watch to the end of this video and you should have a pretty good idea. Now, first things first, when we discuss quarterback prospects, one of the most important prerequisites in general to being, a good quarterback at the next level is being at least 6'1". If you are under 6'1", you are going to be a massive outlier. Players like Bryce Young and Kyler Murray have been struggling, for instance, and it's just because, when you aren't tall enough to see over the middle of the field, you have to kind of guess as to whether somebody's going to be open. It's usually an educated guess based on the play design, right? And the defense that you see and you think that the defense is in. But that's just a really limiting factor. Fortunately, Mendoza is listed at 6'5" and 225 pounds, both on PFF and NFL Draft Buzz. If he ends up being 6'5" exactly, he'd be 87th percentile in height among collegiate quarterback prospects. And if he ends up being 225 pounds, that would be 61st percentile as well. I don't know if he's exactly going to be 6'5", but regardless, he's going to be well over that 6'1" mark, and I wouldn't be shocked if he is 6'5". So that isn't going to be an issue for him. He can access all parts of the field. Now, talking about his projected 40-yard dash time, he's projected to run a 4.85. I don't think he even runs, but athleticism is not his strong suit. He has enough functional athleticism to pick up a first down here and there, but you're not going to confuse him with Lamar Jackson. Now, moving on to his production profile, one thing to note, he is a redshirt junior, so he first started playing in 2023. So in 2023 at Cal, had a 63% completion percentage, 1,708 yards at 7.0 yards per attempt, 14 passing touchdowns to 10 interceptions, and a 68.1 PFF pass grade. Then looking on the ground, had 38 attempts, 197 yards at 5.2 yards per attempt, 2 rushing touchdowns, and 9 total fumbles. So while I don't believe he lost all 9 of these fumbles. That was potentially 19 turnovers in one collegiate season. That is a lot. But one thing I really like to see is the progression from year to year upwards, and especially trending upwards at the very end of your collegiate career. And that's what this profile brings to us and is really good in terms of a lot of the quarterbacks that we've been seeing succeed at the next level have been on a positive swing at the end of their career. Think, Jaden Daniels, Bo Nix, even Joe Burrow back in the day. You want to see this growth from the beginning to the end, and it's even better if it's massive in terms of the second to last season to the final season in which they've played. So taking a look at 2024, for instance, he upped his completion percentage from 63 to 67.9%, 1,708 yards to 3,004, 7.0 yards per attempt to 7.7, 14 to 16 passing touchdowns, fewer interceptions, which is good, 10 to 6, and going from 68.1 to a 75.7 PFF pass grade. Then taking a look on the ground, 52 attempts, 334 yards, 6.4 yards per attempt, which was a career high. 2 rushing touchdowns and only 3 fumbles, so even fewer fumbles. That's a good thing as well. Taking a look at his final season, though, after he transferred to Indiana, this is where he really popped off. So a career best 71.5 completion percentage, a career best 35-36 passing yards, easily a career best 9.3 yards per attempt, another easily career best 41 passing touchdowns while matching those 6 interceptions. Very impressive production. Easily a career best 90.7 PFF pass grade as well. Beautiful. Then on the ground, 76 attempts, 377 yards, 5.0 yards per attempt, an impressive 7 rushing touchdowns. Did fumble 5 times, but that's only 11 total potential turnovers between the interceptions and fumbles this season. That's not nearly as worrisome as 20 would be, for instance, especially when a significant amount of them are on the ground as well. But overall, a very impressive production profile in his final collegiate season, and this is the kind of upward trajectory I really like to see for my quarterback prospects. Now, another important thing to think about is injury history, right? Well, with Fernando Mendoza, we don't really have to worry about that. Talking about his injury history, he had a bloody mouth in a game on January 19th. He had a shoulder/chest scare on December 6th, but missed 1 play before returning. Nothing, basically a nothing burger. Then had an eye bruise on November 16th as well. It was a minor scare post game. Essentially, a whole bunch of nothing burgers. Guys are going to get nicks and bruises here. It's football, right? But as far as health is concerned, there is not one shred of evidence that he is going to be injury prone at the next level which is another positive green flag on his profile. Now, another thing that's important is understanding the receiver slash tight end play, the playmakers in the offense. How good were they? Did they potentially help him? Well, per PFF, they were number one in receiving grade at 92.9. Now, I know, Elijah Surratt's potentially a second round pick in terms of what consensus says about his draft capital, at least potentially lower, potentially higher, just depends, right? But overall, per PFF, he had a 92.9 receiving grade among his receivers. I do want to say, I think this is a mutually beneficial relationship where the good quarterback play kind of helps the receivers, but the receivers actually catching, contested catches definitely helps him as well, right? So I think this is once again mutually beneficial between the two sides, but it isn't as if he was working with bums that were dropping everything he was throwing or anything. Now, another thing that's really important to me is how these players play against ranked competition. They're more likely to be facing off against players they will see at the next level, and it's more representative of the level of competition that they will see, or at least the next best thing, because it's expected you're going to dominate against lesser competition. One of the biggest red flags, in my opinion, is when you are not able to step up against ranked competition. That's one reason I question Carnell Tate, for instance. If you take a look at his splits against bad teams and ranked teams, that's a massive red flag. But let's take a look at Mendoza specifically here. In his first game against ranked competition against number 9 at the time, Illinois, in a dominant 63-10 win, he finished with 267 passing yards, a 91.3 completion percentage. That's crazy. 5 touchdowns, no picks, 4 touchdowns on the ground with no rushing touchdown. Against number 3, Oregon at the time, in a 30-20 win, once again, a win. 20 out of 31 for 215 passing yards, 64.5 completion percentage, 1 touchdown, 1 pick, 31 yards on the ground with no touchdown. Then later on down the line against number 1, Ohio State University, in a 13-10 win, 15 out of 23 for 222 passing yards, 1 touchdown, 1 pick, -3 rushing yards and no touchdown, and once again a win. Then against number 9 at the time, Alabama, in another win, a dominant win of 38-3, 14 out of 16 for 192 passing yards, 87.5 completion percentage, 3 passing touchdowns, no pick, 16 rushing yards on the ground with no touchdown. Then in another dominant win against number 5 this time, Oregon, in a rematch, 56-22, he went 17 for 20 for 177 yards and 85% completion percentage, 5 touchdowns, no picks, 28 rushing yards and no touchdown. And then finally against number 10 ranked Miami, in a 27-21 comeback victory, he finished 16 out of 27 for 186 yards, a 59.3 completion percentage, no touchdown, no pick, -8 rushing yards, but did have the game-winning 12-yard rushing touchdown. So he had in this season, he had 2 comeback victories from behind against Penn State and against Miami in the championship game. Overall, I would say he dominated and was very efficient against ranked competition. But even when you point to a game such as the championship game where he wasn't having the most proficient day, going 16 out of 27 for 186 yards, no touchdown, no pick through the air, he still got it done when his team needed him most with a ridiculous rushing touchdown. So overall, I would describe him as generally dominant against ranked competition, but also clutch and finding ways to make it happen even when he isn't successful as a passer. Now, taking a look at some advanced stats, I took a look at FBS quarterbacks with 400 or more dropbacks. That was a total of 56 quarterbacks in the sample size. Taking a look at his PFF passing grade, his 90.7 was tied for second, very impressive. His adjusted completion percentage, which takes away, throwaways and the like, of 79.0% was tied for 7th in the sample size. His yards per attempt of 9.3 was tied for 2nd. His passing touchdowns of 41 were 1st. His interceptions of 6 were tied for 7th fewest, but the lowest amount in the sample size was 4. So you're talking about a difference of 2 total interceptions when he threw for 41 touchdowns, just to contextualize that and how impressive it is. Taking a look at his big-time throw percentage, his 2.6 was 15th highest, solid number. His turnover-worthy play percentage of 5.7% was tied for 18th lowest. Not the best, but not bad either. His dropped pass percentage of 2.2% was 2nd lowest as well. Like I mentioned earlier, his receiver play was pretty decent in terms of they did their job. They caught the football. And I think that his runner's ball ability, where he throws it in perfect stride, really helped them out too. Taking a look at his ADOT, his average depth of target of 9.8 was tied for 10th highest. So while there was definitely a little bit of dink and dunk here and there, he was testing the field downfield So uh, nothing to worry about because I know he can attack the field, right? Taking a look at his pressure to sack ratio, is 18.9% is tied for 14th highest. Now, one issue he does have is mobility. Inside the pocket, he's really unable to escape interior pressure easily. And he's just not the fastest guy either. So that is going to be a potential issue. But one thing he does to counteract this is he's able to diagnose the coverage the defense is in, attack it quickly, get the ball out. So a lot of times he's able to avoid this issue by just being smart and getting the football out and being the point guard that he's supposed to be. Then taking a look at his time to throw, is 2.67 is 36th highest. So once again, he gets the ball out quickly. That's a good number in the sense of he's avoiding things that are going to cause him issues such as interior pressure by getting the football out quickly. Now, a couple of interesting tidbits I found on X. Fernando Mendoza in the red zone over the past 2 seasons, 37 passing touchdowns, no interceptions, and 8 rushing touchdowns. You want to talk about red zone efficiency? You really could hardly get better than that. Then taking a look, this season, he threw 40 plus passing touchdowns, never lost a game, never lost a fumble, and won the title. No other quarterback in NFL, FBS, or FCS history has done each of these things in a single season. That's also obviously record-breaking, but impressive at the same time. Then taking a look at his journey, he was born and raised a Miami fan, right? Hurricanes. He was a 3-star recruit with no offer from Miami. He played at Cal for 2 seasons, transferred to Indiana, and went 16-0. He won the Natty in his hometown against a team that didn't want him. Yeah. And I want to give a special shout out to my Patreon members. Thank you to Big Hunt, SP, Mage Jack, Infamy MTG, AOYOB, The Don, and Any Buckeye. Thank you guys. I'm doing this full time now, and without your support, this would not be possible. If you'd like to become a member, I'm going to leave a link in both the comment section and description of this video. You'll receive not only, but including access to a Discord where we have a channel where we have NFL and college football talk, as well as a channel where we have fantasy football talk, and a third channel where we laugh at poor trade offers that we've been offered in fantasy football. But if you'd like to, you can always DM me with private, questions if you don't wish for it to be known by any community members. But you'll also get help with building your fantasy football teams every year. I'll use wins above replacement, as well as just looking at the general lineup and scoring settings to help you with your teams each year. I'll help you with trades that are advantageous based on those factors as well. You'll be part of a fun and growing active community. You'll not only receive access to videos early guaranteed, but you'll also have the ability to ask for personal videos that you and only you can view. Or potentially, if you'd like something to be shown on the channel, you'll have preferential treatment there as well. So please consider becoming a member. I'd really appreciate it. Let's get back to the video. Well, some All-22 clips display some of what I'm going to be mentioning here. I'm going to read you around a 5 to 7 minute synopsis of Fernando Mendoza's strengths and potential areas to improve upon. So Fernando Mendoza is a redshirt junior out of Indiana who began his career as a 3-star recruit at Cal before ultimately transferring to Indiana this past season. He stands at 6'5" and 225 pounds, giving him 87th percentile height and 61st percentile weight for a collegiate prospect at quarterback. One general rule of thumb for me is that if you aren't at least 6'1", you're going to be a huge outlier to work out as a long-term quarterback in the league, so this box is checked. Next, we move on to the mental aspect of the position, which involves leadership, poise, and pressure situations such as being clutch, anticipation, pocket presence, and being able to get through your reads. As far as leadership is concerned, he seems a bit quirky in post-game interviews, but is always positive and makes sure that his teammates/coaches are recognized for their work and doesn't take all the credit for himself. His teammates and coaches always seem to love him, which checks another important box. He also plays well under pressure during tight games, and even when he isn't having the most prolific passing day, he does everything he can to will his team to victory, such as his crazy rushing touchdown in the end of the championship game, or his game winner against Penn State to Amar Cooper, so that box is checked. But he also isn't scared to get hit and will stand tall in a pocket with pressure in his face to deliver the ball, even when he knows he's going to get hit. As far as processing is concerned, I like to divide this into 2 types, pre- and post-snap processing. As far as this pre-snap processing is concerned, I think he generally excels at anticipation against zone coverage and often seems to have an answer for what he's seeing pre-snap and gets the ball out quickly. Now, he can be fooled by disguised coverages and odd front disguised pressure looks, which leads him to allow free rushers at himself and doesn't really help his offensive line, but I suspect he'll get better with time and have seen successful reps at times already. It will, however, require substantial improvement. As far as his post-snap processing, he gets through his reads, sometimes through as many as 4, at a smooth rate when protected and can allow himself to work within a clean pocket. He does run into issues when he's pressured because he doesn't have a lot of pocket mobility with, those violent movements due to a lack of quick twitch athleticism. Lacks the ability to escape pressure once it's inside the pocket, and pressure can make him speed quickly through his progressions and lead to poor passes due to an inability to extend plays to set up better passing windows, which means it will be important for him to be protected more than other players with, pocket and general play extension abilities like Mahomes, Caleb Williams, or Josh Allen. His pocket presence is fine as far as his ability to sense pressure is concerned. It's just the athleticism that doesn't allow him to get out of these situations as easily as the players I previously mentioned can, which places an importance on him being able to take advantage of his intelligence with pre-snap diagnoses of the coverages he's facing and having a plan to get the ball out quickly. Now we move on to the physical aspects of the position, such as arm talent, stationary accuracy, on the run accuracy, and rushing ability. As far as arm talent is concerned, he's fairly average here. He can make shot throws with good timing down the sidelines if he has a good base and can get into the throw, but doesn't have an arm like a Josh Allen or Caleb Williams who can rip throws into tight windows with ease, even when they aren't having to anticipate the windows being open due to being able to have insane velocity to make up for it. Though he does have the intelligence to understand when windows should be open. So I do think he will be able to get it done down the field, but will need to be a step ahead of the defense, unlike more physically gifted quarterbacks. As far as his stationary accuracy is concerned, it's incredible and, in my opinion, arguably the best thing about him. He throws with touch when necessary and can rip throws when he can get a step into them. He layers the ball over linebackers and beneath safeties or the middle of the field with ease and pinpoint accuracy. And he delivers what I call runner's balls, where the placement is in perfect stride with his receivers and allows them to maximize yardage after the catch consistently. He has a particularly beautiful slot fade and back shoulder fade for boundary receivers, which should help him in the red zone. As far as his on-the-run accuracy is concerned, his accuracy takes a bit of a hit, but is functional. His lack of arm talent does hinder his ability to throw down the field with zip and as much accuracy when making off-platform throws, and he likes to throw lobs down the field away from defenders, which makes it an either my guy gets it or no one does type of throw. But it's not easy for his receivers at times due to the reduced accuracy, can still be too far outside of the receiver's grasp, for instance. The layup throws, however, are still thrown with consistent accuracy even when on the run. As far as his rushing upside is concerned, it's not great. He can pick up a first down here and there, but he will not be a true dual threat quarterback at the next level. He lacks speed and burst to be a danger on designed runs or zone reads, so I don't think that'll be a staple of the offense he's asked to run. Although I do think that his new head coach, Kubiak, is probably going to implement it a little bit to help him be comfortable starting out. Finally, what type of offense did he run at Indiana, and will he need to adjust to a more complex system at the next level? At Indiana, Coach Cignetti employed a balanced spread offense that has a heavy reliance on RPOs and quick game passing. He will need to be able to be much less reliant on RPOs at the next level, although once again, I think Coach Kubiak will utilize some RPOs to help Fernando Mendoza feel comfortable and grow. Kubiak currently runs a wide zone play action style offense that uses bootlegs quite often. I think that while athleticism is hardly Mendoza's biggest strength, he does have the requisite athleticism to be able to get on the move in a well-schemed offense with a run game that's effective, which will be critical for him. Now, the Raiders have Genti at running back, and that should really help him out. I think he's a fine fit in a wide zone scheme. One issue is that the Raiders have a poor offensive line as a whole at the moment, which ranked 28th in pass blocking and 30th in run blocking per PFF. They need to spend a lot of money in free agency and probably use some draft capital to shore up the offensive line. But tackles Colt Miller and Charles Grant are good to great at pass blocking, and Miller is also good at run blocking, so they have somewhat of a foundation on the outside to work with, but the interior needs substantial improvement. As far as the pass catchers are concerned, he does have Brock Bowers at tight end, but is otherwise lacking in receiver talent with Trey Tucker as an average deep threat and 2025 second round pick Jack Besh not really showing much as a rookie. So the receiver position also needs to be addressed. In conclusion, while we do need to see investments at interior offensive line and wide receiver, I do think Mendoza has what it takes to be successful in the league, and the situation can easily be more than adequate if the Raiders address these issues previously mentioned. Moving on to his projected draft capital, he is projected to go first overall. I guess there's theoretically a non-zero chance the Raiders go with somebody else, but it'd be the dumbest decision probably ever made in NFL draft history for them, and I just don't see that happening. He's going to go first overall. Now, once again, a brief summarization of his strengths and potential areas to improve upon. He excels at layering throws over the linebackers under the safeties. He's great in anticipation versus zone. This is part of what he needs to be able to do to be able to get the football out quickly so he doesn't face so much pressure and crumble. He delivers runners balls, which are in perfect stride and make it really easy. His receivers don't have to adjust all over the place for poorly thrown balls. He's clutch. That last second touchdown run in the championship and then the game winner to Amari Cooper speaks to that. And his mechanics deliver consistency. He's very consistent, especially in the pocket, stationary. His body's lined up, his top half and lower half. He hitches correctly. Everything about what he does mechanically is good. It's just he doesn't have, the athleticism once again to really excel as an on-the-run type of thrower with that. He doesn't have the elite arm talent. So I think his rushing upside is something that he needs to improve upon if he can. I know Caleb Williams, for instance, talked about getting faster with speed training. So potentially, hopefully Mendoza might do that. It could help a little bit. But once again, he can still get you a first down when necessary. Also, they ran an RPO rather heavy scheme at Indiana, so he is going to need to be able to progress into a real NFL offense. But I think Kubiak's going to implement a little bit of RPO, most likely to help him feel comfortable to begin with before he really progresses. And then finally, escaping pressure. Once again, just a lack of elite athleticism is the issue here. It's not that he's not smart, but he knows his own limitations, and so he actively works around them with the strengths in which he possesses. Now, moving on to my pro comparison, I think he's Jared Goff plus. So he resembles Jared Goff in that he's a very good pocket passer, delivers runners balls with supreme accuracy, pinpoint accuracy, layers the football really well, has a good command of the offense like Jared Goff generally does. But much like Jared Goff isn't the most ridiculous athlete. I think he's more athletic than Goff, but you're not going to use him on designed runs very often, in my opinion. But I do think he has a little bit more athleticism to be able to pick up the first down and isn't a complete statue like Goff is. But I do think that they're relatively similar, and I think that they both kind of lack elite arm talent, although they make up for it with anticipation, accuracy, and just being an intelligent player. Where do I think the dynasty community will probably have him ranked? Probably around quarterback 14 to 16, which I think is relatively fair. I think he'll probably be a really good QB2 for us in fantasy, potentially low-end QB1 if he ends up really hitting, with obviously the potential for him to be Joe Burrow in an ideal situation where the Raiders continue to improve the offensive line and playmakers around him and he really hits. But if he's ever going to be an elite QB1 for us in fantasy, he's going to have to be Joe Burrow passing wise, because he's not going to bring a ridiculous amount of rushing upside to the table. So I think a high-end QB2 is most likely, low-end QB1 is reasonably probable. But in an outlier case, if he ends up being like Joe Burrow, sure, he could be an elite QB1. Potential possible fits, the Raiders first overall. That's it. Where would I personally take him in rookie drafts? I think anywhere from the 102 to the 105. I think Jeremiah Love is the most talented player. And I think that first round running backs, especially early first round running backs, are like the safest hit rate in fantasy football. So I personally would just be taking Love if I had the 101. But if you need quarterback, sure, I guess. But I think 102 to 105, anywhere between the three top receivers and him is probably a good bet for you. Now, as far as where do I have him ranked? Well, he's the first quarterback in which I've broken down, so he's going to be in tier 1. I'm going to tell you right now, he's probably going to be the only quarterback in tier 1. He's the only for sure locked in first round pick that we know of right now. Potentially Ty Simpson reaches the first round, but it'd probably be a little bit later, at least not in the beginning of the first round. So right now, and the way I think it's going to end up being is he's the only tier 1 quarterback in this class. So once again, thank you for watching this. I had to redo this video due to copyright issues the first time in which I uploaded this. So hopefully this is fixed now. But yeah, what do you think of Mendoza? Are there any potential strengths or areas of improvement I didn't mention that you think are reasonable? Let me know below. How do you think he's going to fare for us in fantasy if he ends up going to the Raiders? Elite QB1, mid QB1, low end QB1, high end QB2, so on and so forth. Let me know below in the comments section. How confident are you in him hitting or failing? Let me know below. I personally am a believer in him. I just think the upside is probably capped due to rushing upside, but still a really good quarterback and would be a fine asset for you. But yeah, let me know below. Once again, thank you to my Patreon members. Without your support, this wouldn't be possible. If you would like to become a Patreon member, I'm going to leave that link in the comment section. If you cannot or do not wish to, if you could just like the video, subscribe to the channel, leave a comment below, I'd really appreciate it. With all that being said, thanks guys and have a good day.